Your Honor, this guy has been making bootleg Simpsons merchandise.
Bart Scampson. He is quite a scam.
Scompson.
Bart Scampson.
Ska, like the music, ska.
Ska.
Ska. You know, ska.
I just thought it was scamp misspelled.
You don't know ska? In all your education, you've got to go to law school and everything, and judge school, or whatever it is you go to, and you don't know the word ska? Welcome to America, friend.
I do not have a problem in general with bootleg Simpsons merchandise, but this is the worst pun ever.
It's a thinker. You got to think about it.
TBTL.
For the next little while, it's going to be you and me together alone. I want you to lock the door and turn the phone off and really concentrate on what we're going to do.
Who do you see when you look in the mirror?
Daffy Duck. I have a picture of him taped to my mirror.
Okay, what do you see next to Daffy Duck?
Ryan Gosling.
Hey, Lloyd! Do some delivery for the truck to the airport.
I'm sorry, but when I hear an undeserved compliment, it makes my ears want to throw up.
Oh, your ears are always throwing up about something.
We'll walk that fine line between cutting-edge irreverence and trouble with the Federal Communications Commission.
All right. Hello, good morning, and welcome everyone to a Thursday edition of TBTL, the show that just might be too beautiful to live.
I can't believe you're still on the air.
My name is Luke Burbank. I'm your host.
Another day, another victory for the OG, taking down the sweats, the imposters among us.
Coming to you from the Madrona Hill studio, perched high above the mighty Columbia. Boy, I was gone for a week. I was back for yesterday's show. I was talking about how it was kind of haunted here in the Madrona Hill studio, spider webs and the like. I got that taken care of, but also I'm looking around the lawn here, the grounds, if you will. God, wouldn't it be amazing to live in a house where you could actually call it the grounds? What is the level? How nice does your house need to be, or how large? Because I can tell you, mine's neither. What's the threshold for when you can describe your lawn as the grounds? Looking around, man, this is a bad time of year for me to... Looks like I picked a bad time of year to start leaving the house for a week because everything is growing out. Everything is kind of going to seed, and I'm going to have to do something about it. But not before I help bring you episode 4,467 in a collector series.
Let the fun begin.
By the way, when I was in New York the other day, I realized that I'm going to start having a whole new personality.
Brother, who are you? What are you doing?
I did something that I think it might have been the first time I'd ever purchased this particular thing in my whole entire adult life, which has been a long time now. Consider my adult life to have started at 20. Now I'm 49. So in 29 years, in almost 30 years, I don't think I've ever done this before. I did it. I loved it. We'll talk about it also. Max, formerly known as HBO, is getting an entirely new personality themselves.
You gotta be kidding me.
And it's their old personality. We'll talk about that too. Plus, it's a Thursday, a.k.a. a Blur's Day.
My birthday today.
So we'll do some Blur's Day messages. And we're going to talk to this guy, the longest-running Cobra of the show, maybe best known for his depictions of the tall ships, who is feeling very, very cat-like.
A cat is an angel that poops in a box.
He's Andrew Walsh, and he's joining me right now. Good morning, my friend.
My man, I finally mowed our entire lawn yesterday. Now, it's not the first time I mowed the lawn this season, but we're in that period now where there's still a certain amount of rain in in the air in the forecasts, and so the lawn in a certain way is healthier. It's like the most healthy it's going to be all year. It's green, it's
thick
lush
and lustrous right now.
But because rain is still kind of coming and going, it's hard to find a time when I can actually go out there and mow it. And it had been a couple of weeks, I think. We're in a period where I need to be mowing it every day, but like it had been a couple of weeks, and there were certain areas, most of our house, you can't see the yard because of the fences and the shrubbery, but I would pull in and park my car outside of our house, and there were parts that I know the neighbors could see, and I was like, what must they think of us, right? I don't think anybody's even paying attention, but that's just how my brain works. I'm like, this is embarrassing. My house is embarrassing. I have to mow this. But then I'd come in, and I would like not think about it for the rest of the evening. Yesterday, it was finally a day in the evening where there was no rain. Things had dried out enough. I went out there. I was just going to mow parts of the lawn. I ended up mowing the entire thing. There are some parts in our backyard where like wildflowers grow early in the spring, and so you kind of mow around them and you let them do their thing. But now they were dying off, so it was the first like full yard mow. And again, it was one of those things where I started pulling at a thread a little bit. I started to do a little bit, and then I ended up doing the entire thing. And then a couple of times yesterday evening after it was all done, like I knew it was satisfying. I knew it had been building up and had been playing on my subconscious to a degree. But it wasn't, I did not realize mentally how good it would make me feel the rest of the night. I think I had to take a few trips out to the, I don't know, compost bin. I was cooking. I threw some stuff away. You know, I had to take the garbage out. Let me cook. And every time I'd go outside and I'd look around at the lawn and it's all tidy and it's still green. Like, unfortunately, we're going to get into summer and it's all going to be brown again, and then that's going to depress me too. But, like, it's still green and lush, but everything is so trimmed. And I'm not saying this like yesterday, you drinking coffee I found to be an affront to me because I was not drinking coffee. I'm not trying to make you feel worse about the condition of your lawn right now, but I was just, every time I went outside last night, I would temporarily forgotten that I had mowed, and then I would see it, and it calmed me in a way. I mean, if you could put that feeling into a pill, I would buy that pill.
It's called fentanyl.
Oh, great.
And you can understand why it is so addictive. Yes. I have that exact same feeling when I have like really put in the work on my little yard here. And I had, Andrew, this is the thing, you and I are having opposite experiences because before I went out of town, I had like one of those days, maybe it was a Sunday afternoon or something where it was like the weather cooperated and I really sort of I really committed. I got out, I whipper sniffered, I weed whacked, I pulled a lot of like, you know, sort of weeds out of like rockeries and things. I did some of the like kind of unfun stuff. Like the fun thing is mowing the lawn. The fun thing is riding around on the lawnmower. The stuff that's less fun for me is like weed whacking around rockeries and kind of just I don't know, kind of ultimately something you need to do, but it's not the most fun experience. But I did all of that. And the thing was looking absolutely top notch when I went out of town for my long trip. And then I come home and it's just like, if a lawn could look like the equivalent of the crypt keeper's hair.
Okay,
just straggly, long in the wrong places. For some reason, sitting in a high chair. Does a crypt keeper sit in a high chair? I don't know much about that character. But like, it's just so I'm sitting here talking to you in the Madrona Hill studio, and I'm just looking at like so many things that now need my attention. And the way that I process that anxiety is I start blocking out days to do yard work on my calendar. Like, here's a day that I'm not traveling and that I'm not doing Livewire. Oh, speaking of, come see Livewire tonight at the Alberta Rose Theater. Sam Sanders will be there. Very exciting. It's going to be a fun night. But I put it on my calendar because once it's on my calendar, I don't even know if I'll do it, but it feels like I've done something related to the project. It's like, I know there is a day. Maybe it's next week, but there is a day, and it is blocked out, and it says yard work. And on that day, I shall, again, work the yard, till the land.
Problem with that, though, is you have to also hope that the weather cooperates.
Yes, that's right. That is true. And by this week that we're in right now has been kind of lousy, as my stepmom used to say. But yeah, I mean, that I'm having the exact opposite feeling that you're having as you kind of like come out of your house and you're pleasantly surprised with how nice everything is. I'm unpleasantly surprised at how jacked up everything is. I will say this. I bought that way too expensive weed killer, but it's like natural.
Oh.
I bought it on Amazon, and I was talking about it, I don't know, a few weeks ago, because I'm trying to spray it on some areas that I've worked hard to de-weed them, like particularly these rockeries that I have that are really a hassle.
I was going to ask, so this isn't like something that you spray on weeds that are growing amongst grass and it preserves the grass and then kills the weed. I don't even know if that exists, but that's not what you're talking about. This is something that it's like there shouldn't be anything growing around this area anyway.
Yes. It's like these, I've sprayed down the rock. I keep using that word. I don't know if there's a better term for it, but basically these like collections of rocks where there's a lot of crevices. And And there's a lot of like weeds that will grow out of there. And I had gotten all the weeds pulled out, and I didn't want to keep having to pull out the weeds. So the idea was to spray this thing down so that nothing would grow there. And then also go to other parts of the yard where I don't want any vegetation and to spray. Now, a lot of people historically have used like Roundup for this, but that's famously very bad. Like, in fact, just the other day, I saw some news article that said, I don't want to name and blame and shame, but there was like, I saw the headline was like there was a state. And you're going to be surprised to hear it wasn't Massachusetts. It wasn't California. There was a state that had recently changed a law so that Roundup could not be sued for the cancer-causing properties of Roundup.
They passed a law to say
they passed a law.
Oh, my God.
It's called the Pave Paradise Law, and it actually it mandates the paving of paradise. I mean, like, let's just say the science is out on if Roundup, and maybe so. I don't want to get into any kind of a slanderous situation here. But let's just say the science is out on exactly if Roundup is bad for you or not. But wouldn't you just leave that to the courts and the science? Why would you make a law saying that Roundup cannot be found harmful? What if it is, and what if they find that it's harmful? Why would you go out of your way to make it impossible to sue them?
Well, why would you suddenly welcome white Afrikaners as refugees? Why would you suddenly reinstate eligibility of Pete Rose into the Hall of Fame? It's literally just like, it's cartoon evil at this point. It's just like whatever is bad on the wrong side of history, we're just going to do it. I honestly can't tell what's going on anymore. Like it feels like trolling.
An absolute peace and love to our Peach State residents. Georgia becomes second U.S. state to shield maker of Roundup weed killer from some cancer claims. New legislation signed by Governor Brian Kemp protects pesticide manufacturers like Bayer. It's good that we're getting the weed killer and the aspirin from the same people. I think, heaven forbid, those get mixed up at the factory. In a victory for global... How about a sentence, Andrew, that you hoped you'd never hear? Mm-hmm. In a victory for global agrochemical maker Bayer.
This is a Mr. Show sketch.
Georgia has become the second state to shield pesticide manufacturers from some lawsuits claiming that they failed to warn customers of potential dangers. All that is to say, I bought this woo-woo shit that's really expensive. I bought like 4 jugs of it, and I bought a sprayer, and I sprayed the yard. I sprayed the areas, and I didn't know if it would work. The next day I came out, the whole yard just smelled like vinegar, because I think that's the active ingredient effectively. And guess what, Andrew? Actually kind of worked.
It's working?
Well, the areas where I sprayed a lot of it, and if there was some grass or vegetation there that I didn't want, it's now yellow. So what I'm going to do next, my next big project is to do, and I bet you maybe our friend listener Karen, who's the plant expert, or some of the other folks know, I have a feeling there's a way to make my own homebrew of this that's just basically vinegar. Because if you go on the internet and you go like non-toxic Roundup, you get a bunch of lists of like put vinegar and such in this. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was all BS. So that's why I went out and spent money to buy something that was pitched to me as an environmentally less toxic version, which I think was just vinegar.
Yeah. And
it kind of worked.
Same with cleaning. When Hannah and I first started Spotless, it was like we were really we got a lot of emails and questions from folks who are just kind of like, well, I'm looking for a more environmentally way to clean this. It was always vinegar. It was or baking soda. Yeah.
I got baking soda.
Baking soda. I got baking soda. And which is weird because like scientifically, like mixing them doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, it fizzes up, and so it looks like a cleaning, it looks like something is being cleaned. But honestly, when you mix those two and you get that reaction, you're combining an acid and a base, and they kind of negate each other. It's just like, but everything came back to vinegar this, vinegar that, and to varying degrees of
efficacy.
Efficacy, exactly.
But I'm encouraged by this because, again, what I now know is if I come up with a home brew that's not super expensive for me to make, I'm making like a I don't know, even like a 40-gallon batch of it or something. Mm-hmm. Because what I really want to do, once now I go back at this and I get everything mowed and trimmed and weeded and pulled and I've got things in a good place, then I'm just going to go absolutely wild with the vinegar spray. Like, I'm going to triple down. The reason that I didn't put as much down was because I was running out of it. Like, I did not have enough to go around the whole yard, even though I bought a lot of it. So now I'm like, okay, I see some decent results, and now I can see a path forward. If I can get the, if I can get the combo right of my homebrew, then I'll get everything. This is how my brain motivates itself and works. It's like, now, I was telling you on the show yesterday that you just need to keep your eyes on the prize for tomorrow night. You're watching the Mariners. You're eating whatever you want. You're all done with the butt stuff. I mean, I don't know your private life. Maybe you're just starting on the butt stuff, but the colonoscopy is in the rearview mirror. My version of that is, because I'm looking around my yard and I'm feeling very anxious about how kind of crummy everything is, but now I'm imagining a world in which I've gotten that all fixed and I've just got like all of the, what would you call it, sort of weed killer, non-toxic weed killer that I need, and I'm just going to coat, I may coat the house in it. I don't know. I may just go around coating the neighborhood cats. I'm going to put this on everything so that I don't have to spend the whole summer pulling weeds out from between rocks.
I did something yesterday that was, I kind of do this little bit by bit. Again, it's something that like should probably be a project that I set out to do, but instead I just sort of like, in the spur of the moment, grab a handful of grass and pull it out. But if you can imagine, so our house, I've seen pictures of our house from, I don't know, back in the day. I think like at some point before it became a rental property before us, somebody lived here and really cared about the grounds, because I am a little bit bummed. I think we do a decent job of taking care of our yard and stuff, but like there was a time where this house was laid out almost like kind of almost like a Japanese garden style.
I can very much see that.
You know, it's like it's kind of segmented out with these nice, like they're not railroad ties, much smaller than that, but you know, like when you take nice pieces of wood. And I've seen pictures when all of that was like kind of new, and the plants were new, and there were plants in this area and stones in this other area, and I really like that. I love that vibe. And we've been basically just sort of maintaining it, trying to pick out the weeds, but we haven't gone through and like really kind of renovated some of those. Like I should lay down more stones. I think Vives and I are sort of like, if I had my druthers, I'd go back to exactly how it used to be when I saw those photos of it being very tidy. Because think about it, that's something that I like to do, right? Like everything in its place. It's like a bento box, right? Like everything in its place. Like, and Genevieve likes things to be a little bit more wild, and so I think that we just haven't sat down to really kind of figure out long term what are we going to do to make this, return it to its heyday, or do our own thing. We have extended the deck. We've done various projects like that, but as part of this, at one point, like when you're walking on the side of our house, I guess the north side of our house, small little walkway area that is mostly lawn, and I'm going to say maybe if you were to be taking a stroll around the grounds, like if you ever come over and I say, would you like to take a stroll around the grounds?
Yes. Oh, so you've hit that. I don't know if you were locked in when I was musing about that, but I guess, okay, you do have grounds. Well, must
yes,
be nice.
Yes. Well, it's funny. Like, I think grounds was in my head because of that, but I'm also thinking about like reading, like, who would it be? Like, I almost said Charlotte Wilder. That's a podcaster, not a writer from the 1800s.
The sports gossip show.
Yeah. No. Who am I thinking of? Like
Emily Bronte.
Emily Bronte. I think like that kind of era of like, would you like to take a turnabout? Like, you know what I mean?
Sure.
That's what the activity was.
Real Mr. Darcy energy.
Yeah. And of course Bronte didn't write that. That's who I'm trying to think of. I'm trying to think of who's the more famous Emily Bronte. Good grief.
Not Charlotte Bronte. It's not Emily Bronte.
Pride and Prejudice. Why am I?
I thought that was David.
This is
Barry.
So it is. Oh, it's David Barry. Yes.
Oh, yeah,
right.
okay.
Of course. Why can I not think of one of the most famous?
Jane Austen, probably.
Thank you. One of the most famous
Jane Barry.
writers.
Luckily, none of our listeners have thoughts about Jane Austen, or it was not completely formative for any of our listeners, including my sisters, by the way.
The life
and Pret.
I really love Pride and Prejudice. I read that a long time ago, and I may have read that even more than once. I know that I've seen both of the sort of movie or miniseries versions. So that's why it's kind of driving me crazy. It wasn't that far of a reach for me. I just couldn't grab her name. All of that is to say, if you were walking, maybe two people could walk abreast down this little area. If that kind of gives you a sense, it's just a small walkway. But somebody took, and I'm assuming it was like the previous owners took like those big flat slate stones and made sort of a rough walkway, sort of like, it's not, it's got a little bit of, it's not super laid out, like super straight lines. It's very nice and natural looking. But, those things just tend to sink down more and more, and grass grows over them. Yes. I mean, and I'm sure these were just laid down whenever, but the grass will grow over them and it doesn't become dirt. It's amazing. It's like grass. I don't think I ever realized how far grass can grow without having actual dirt underneath it. So yesterday I'm mowing the lawn and I'm like, I want to clear out a couple of these stepping stones a little bit. And so I start putting my hands, and I've done this on occasion, but I really went to town yesterday. I started sliding my hands underneath this like blanket of grass that was growing basically on these stones, and just ripping it away like sod, just like big pieces of sod.
Very
so now
satisfying.
it's very satisfying, and that walkway looks way better now. It's a little bit rough in where I kind of sheared it away, but it'll sort of blend in back to the stone well enough. The lawn will, and it'll look nice enough. But it was very satisfying and kind of a lot of work, like yanking that sod up essentially.
I had this and we should probably move on from lawn talk, but like I had this weird thought the other day when I was dealing with something lawn related here. I forget what it was, but like you've been here. I'm sure you don't remember this and you weren't clocking for it, but there's just the way this property is laid out. It is a real landscaping nightmare because you have like multiple terrains, so many places where stuff can be growing and you don't want it to grow there, but like to keep it from growing there is just like an insane hassle. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, because it's on a hill, and
it's on a hill, and down the hill is fine. That's just a field. I just let that go, and then I get Jerry to brush hog it once a year. That part doesn't stress me out, but there's so many other areas where there's just these like changes in terrain where there's just like an area that they made into, for some reason, they kind of, again, somebody must have gotten a deal on like rocks and rock wall technology here, because on this hill it's all terraced, and every time it changes a level they put some weird thing in that's now like impossible to keep it from becoming weed filled. But I don't want it to be weed filled, and I was doing something, and like I said, I enjoy the mowing of the lawn, very satisfying, but there's so much other stuff here. It's almost like either I need to become one of those lawn guys where it's literally my only hobby in the summer, in the spring and summer, is lawn, or I need to like hire a staff, which I've already established I don't want to do because it's really expensive. And the thought that I had was, I wonder, because this house was on the market for a long time before I bought it. I had the thought, I wonder if some smarter person than me came out and looked at this house and thought, oh yeah, this has kind of got some potential. It's got a really cool view and stuff, but man, you couldn't pay me to deal with the landscaping implications. And then I had a thought that feels more Andrewian to me, which was I then got mad at myself for not, again, I love living here. I love this house. This is why this is all kind of insane thinking. But basically the chain of events was I'm bent over pulling something out of somewhere, and I'm just going like, I have so much of this to do before this looks presentable. And then I thought, I wonder if somebody who knows more about lawns and I've had plenty of houses, but they either didn't have a lawn or they had a normal lawn that you just mow, like, you do a little edging or whatever. I thought, I wonder if somebody else came out to this house and looked around and assessed, because they're smarter than me, that like this is going to be a project at all times when you live here, and they therefore passed on it. And then I was mad at myself that I didn't have that kind of like awareness, that I'm just the kind of person who just, kind of comes out and goes, oh, okay, cool. Well, let's, sure. Like, I don't think those kinds of things through. I don't do an analysis where I'm going, cool potential for this house, but I'm going to be on my hands and knees pulling weeds out of a rockery for the rest of my life if I buy this house. And therefore, I'm going to buy something else that doesn't involve that. That's not how my brain ever works. And I felt mad at myself that my brain has never thought that. And yet I love living here.
I think, I mean, I don't know if this is why you say it's Andrewsian, but like I definitely when it comes to the property stuff, like I was going to say the properties we've owned, it just makes it sound more
the grounds you've owned, the estates you've owned.
Exactly.
The estates you've owned and the grounds you've tended.
You know, we owned that little house in New Hampshire that was like from like the turn of the last century, a small little house, but we bought it from friends. Like I specifically never even wanted to own a house, and I felt pretty strongly about it at that time. I'd been a renter my whole life, but we bought this because it kind of just sort of fatefully fell into our hands in this certain way. Not that it was free or anything. That was one of those we really kind of got hosed in the whole like buying at the top of the market, then had to get out of there after the bottom had fallen out of everything. But all of that is to say, I treated that house almost like a rental property, sort of, in my attitude. I mean, I took care of the lawn, but I remember one time kind of like saying to my neighbor, an older man, we're talking like kind of literally over the fence or across our property or whatever, and sort of gesturing towards something, being like, oh, this is just so ugly here. And he's like, well, just pull it up. It's your house. And I just remember having this moment. I'm 28 years old, 27, and just suddenly having this realization, like, yeah, this is my house. Like, I don't have to ask or whatever. Like, I just can just pull up these weeds. And I remember doing that, and it sort of like was a moment for me. And then we went on to be renters for years and years and years after that. And then when we got to this house, I remember that still echoes in my head when I want to do this or that, or if I'm pulling up too many weeds here. It's like, no, this is mine. I can cut this thing back as far as I want, and it'll grow back or it won't, but it's my house. It's my decision to make. And so I try to embrace that. But I get disappointed in myself in what a child I sort of am about the adult stuff of owning a house. You know, the swingers parties, the key parties. Just like we bought this house. Genevieve did most of the research on it. I'm like, yeah, this looks great. I can imagine my studio being in here. This is, but Genevieve does all the thinking. And then I remember Broadcast Barry coming over to visit before we'd moved in, and we're showing him. He's like, okay, well, yeah, that's your sump pump there. That's your, this is where your internet's coming into the house. Obviously, like, he's just looking around, seeing all of these things that are just blind to me, because I'm just like, I don't know. It's a house. Like, it's a downspout. It's a this. And I've had other things, like a handyman that we were using for a while came over one time, and he's kind of walking around our garage and saying, like, well, look at that wood there. You need to fix your drainage there. Like, that's, to him, that would be like, I'm just going to spend maybe 2 hours on a Saturday and do this thing, because he can look around. It's like a magic eye thing to me. Like, I'm just like, I don't know. For me, I like our cute little yard. It, like I was telling Vives, like, this is like a house from the early 1940s. It reminds me of a house that maybe I would go visit my chuchas in, like a small little postage stamp lot, that you kind of keep tidy with some white stones here or whatever. But like, to me, I still sort of approach it like, I don't know, I'll just mow around this thing. But like, I don't really know what that thing is. I don't know what a sump pump does. Learned that the hard way. I now know what a sump pump does, but I don't know. Maybe I'm dumbing it down too much for what your example is there, but I've definitely had those moments too where I'm like, I don't deserve this life.
Yeah, my version of it is that I want, and this is tied into the thing that I always talk about a postcard moment or a coat hook moment, kind of like this way that I think if I just get everything set up in a certain way, then everything in my life will be perfect, because I won't be on the journey towards this. I'll be there, and then the destination will be satisfying. And of course, we all know that that's not how life works, but I still fall into that trap. And I feel like I like that experience you and I already talked about, of like the lawn's all mowed. It's a nice summery day or a spring day. The Mariners are on. It's like, I'll tell you what, in those moments, I feel very fulfilled. I really do. Like, it's a nice moment. But because there's so much stuff that's like to deal with on this little, I'm on like, I think maybe an acre plus or something. There's so much stuff to deal with that what I want to figure out is, how do I kind of like hose down all the parts that I don't want to deal with vinegar, and let some of it go wild, but in a contained way. How do I make it so that this place is totally, like, there's this area that I'm looking at right now that's down, because I'm up in the converted garage, but down these steps is the house. And there's a little, I don't know, would you call it a planter? There's like a dirt rectangle that goes up to the edge of the house. Okay, and it's got a tree in it right now, a maple tree, and then just some weeds that I need to pull or spray. And like, I look at that, and I have this, every year, this thing fills up with grass and weeds, and that I've been here. And every year I have to like pull all of that out, and it's a major hassle. I put down a barrier last time that I thought would stop them of cardboard. It did, and it just fertilized the soil and helped them grow more. But I look at that and I think, well, maybe what I could do is get all the weeds out and then cut that tree down and then put down some kind of impervious thing, then cover it with gravel and then plant pampas grass, because I love pampas grass. That's a very kind of, sort of, I don't know, South Carolina feel. And then every time I come home, I can just look at this beautiful pampas grass without all these weeds, and I don't have to deal with it. Like, I want to somehow engineer my way out of this problem.
Mm-hmm.
I want to take all the parts of my little house area that are a hassle for me and make them so they'll never be a hassle again. Of course, that's not how life works. Life is about putting out a lot of small fires. It's about the dealing. It's like you have your systems. You go out, you pull these weeds. That's what you do. I want to somehow make some world where I never have to deal with anything I don't want to deal with. And I only get to deal with the fun part. I just get to ride my lawnmower and listen to the Mariners. And it's not realistic, but my brain goes into this mode trying to achieve that, which, maybe I'll never be free of.
Well, I think this is an interesting question, and this it broadens it out a little bit beyond lawn care if you're concerned about us rat holing there. Also, you got to take care of those rat holes in your on your
those
grounds.
are a real problem. The city has told me to cease and desist.
But I like to sometimes, and again, this is something that I think comes up with Hannah sometimes on Spotless. Like, what are the things? There are some tasks that we do that we don't look forward to, but when you think about, like, well, if I could hire somebody to do this for me, would I do that? Like, if money were just no object, right? And of course, some people, you and I make decisions like that. I know that you have people help you with certain big tasks, indoor and outdoor. I know people have like house cleaning services. This is all, none of this is like just for the 1%, right? Like, a lot of this stuff could be in reach, but like, I think about the hedges around our house. That is such a big project. I just tackled the back ones this and that's like the shortest length of hedge that we have, but it's absolutely beastly. It was not maintained at all before we moved in, so like these hedges had kind of become trees again. It's so woody that I had to take a chainsaw to them a couple of years ago and really cut them back, but they're still so ridiculously wild. And I spent a couple of days, about a week apart, really hacking away at them again with my, trimmer. And right now they are pretty high and tight. Like, they look pretty good. Nice. And I'm like, that's very satisfying for me to see that, because they were in bad shape. They were basically just becoming these very tall, crazy trees. And then later on this summer, we're going to have to do that to all of the other hedges around our house, which are about 8 feet high, very wide. And they're just right now, like, literally, it almost is like they're growing in front of our eyes. Like, they go from, like, looking how they looked all winter to the last 2 weeks, all of a sudden just all this fresh green growth on it, right? And it's becoming, this is our third summer, I think, of doing this, and it's become kind of a ritual. Vives and I start saying, when are we going to start, tackling this project? And that is one that is so satisfying when it's done, and I can look at it and think, like, oh, man, we did that. We trimmed that back. That was, like, a lot of work over the course of a couple of weeks. But honestly, I would farm that out. Like, in last year when I was dealing with my joint issues, I almost did. I just kind of didn't work out for various reasons. And I can see a world in which I spend some money, and I think it would be kind of expensive. It's a big project, but like once a year, we plunk this money down. Yeah. That job is done for us, yet I can still look at it and have that satisfying feeling. Having said that, I wouldn't do that with my lawn. And my lawn is not big, but it's like a lot of nooks and crannies, a lot of stuff that you can only get at with a whippersniffer, as we now like to call it, or this. And like moving this thing here and like clearing out this space so I can mow this area, like it probably takes me about 3 hours or whatever. I don't love it, but I don't think I would ever have anybody else do that. And I'm reminded of that interview that Bill Belichick, I wonder what he's doing these days, gave years and years ago. I remember I heard this in Los Angeles, and we brought it over to TBTL because I thought it was such an interesting concept, and I think it's when it crystallized how much I love going grocery shopping. He had said he hasn't gone to a grocery store in years. He's Bill Belichick. He doesn't need to. Somebody does that for him, And I was listening, I was thinking, I would never stop going to the grocery store. You know what I mean? Like, right. So anyway, I've talked too much. You understand what I'm going at here. Like, what are the things in your life that you would happily, if money were no object, just have somebody take care of for you, versus the things that you would hang on to anyway. Like, would you still clean your own bathrooms because there's something satisfying about doing that yourself, or would that just be an easy one to just like check off the list to give to somebody else?
I would happily give that to somebody else. I would mow my own lawn, but only the parts of it that are fun to mow.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be it. Everything else I would have no problem with a team of professionals showing up and whipping this place into shape, from a yard standpoint and a toilet standpoint and everything else, and just kind of enjoying it. Again, I do like riding on the lawnmower on a summer day, so that part I would probably hang on to. But you'd be shocked at the amount that I would farm out if I could. It'd be almost everything.
Yeah,
because I just like things being nice.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. And this. Okay, we definitely need to move on. By the way, I looked up. The Crypt Keeper is not in a high chair.
Yeah, I don't know why it'd be in a high chair.
It's an electric chair. But the fact that I mix those up is also a problem, because those are very different chairs.
No babysitting gigs for you.
I just lost my lucrative babysitting contract that I had just signed. But this could be part of the problem. Is I think that I need to try to connect with the part of the human experience that is gratified by hard work as opposed to avoids it. I do some hard work around the house, and I will again, when I get a chance, as far as dealing with stuff in my yard. But more globally, I think a lot of people will tell you that it's very satisfying to do things that are hard, because then you know that you can, and then because the pride of finishing this job or learning how to do something. You know who's weirdly good at this? My daughter. I went over to her apartment in Seattle one night, and I might have mentioned this on the show, and she had this very 1920s apartment that was really cute, and she had this really cute stove that matched the 20s era. And I said, "Did you used to have that stove?" She goes, "No, I bought it on Craigslist." I go, "What happened to your old stove?" She goes, it didn't go with the place. I didn't like it. I pulled it out. By the way,
she's a renter. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Rental. She pulls the stove out, the old stove. She's a very kind of absent landlord, though. Like, honestly, it's not like a management company. It's like one kind of nutty lady. So she had taken the stove out, the old stove. She had put this new, really cute, period vintage stove in, and she had measured it also, like it fit somehow. And she had hooked it up. And then somehow some part of it wasn't gas, but something wasn't working. She'd called a guy to come fix it. This guy'd come out. She'd kind of sweet talked him, got it working, and she just did all of this because she just wanted to have a different stove in there. And by the way, it looked amazing, like it really worked. But it was like, I was like, "How did you know how to do any of this?" She goes, "I don't know, YouTube." Like, if I don't know how to do something, generally speaking, my thought is, who can I call and hire to do this? Or how can I, including my own father, right? Like, and there are other people that are just kind of like, "Well, I didn't know how to do it, and then I learned how to do it, and now I know how to do it." Or, "Yeah, that was really unfun, but I just kind of threw my back into it, and now it's done, and I'm gratified by that experience." I think I'd like to connect with that part of the human experience, because I kind of don't do that enough. I tend to shortcut everything. And I think taking the long way is probably useful for the soul.
Sometimes, given that's why I kind of like taking a bit of an inventory there. I can't believe So this is an electric stove from the 1920s. I didn't even know that they had those back then.
I mean, maybe I'm guessing at the era, maybe not 1920, maybe 1950s or something. But it was like a vintage, kind of, and it was small too, because it's an apartment kitchen, so she had to find one. It's not like the size of the one that you have in your kitchen or I have in my kitchen. Mm-hmm. So it was also smaller, and the whole thing. And that's just one. Like, she decided at some point that she didn't like the fixture, like the switches and other things in her apartment, like the actual light switches and stuff, because she had done miracles with this apartment, but there's also an apartment that people have been renting out for years and years and years, and there was that thing where there's 8 trillion coats of paint over everything.
Yeah.
And so then she bought these replacement switches that were stylish and she liked, and then she starts pulling out the switches, and like, that's something that I guess I vaguely know how to do now. I could replace the switch, on an outlet or whatever you call it. But I'm definitely like, I'm going to refamiliarize myself with the process for that before I do it. I don't go into it lightly, but like, I could probably do that much, but barely above that. And this is just like I always say a kid, she's 31, but this is like, a relatively young person who's just like, I just want to switch these out. And then she ran into some problems, and then of course she calls my dad, which was the smart thing.
Yeah.
And then he talks her through it, and then she's just like kind of rewiring something in the place, and like it works. She puts it all back together. She just has one of those personalities where she's very undeterred by not knowing how to do something. And I'm fairly deterred by it, depending on the thing we're talking about. If somebody said, hey, do you want to go try this thing in the media landscape that you don't know how to do? I would think, yeah, I can probably figure that out. So there are areas of my life where I am probably overly confident about just figuring it out. And then there are areas where I'm really underconfident.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of those apply to the home environment.
Yeah, I find for me, maybe it's slightly confidence, but it's more laziness. Like that story about, I hated the stove upstairs that we, got with this house. And we knew we were going to replace it eventually. I don't know. Sometimes I just ask myself, like, what would this be like if I were single? Like, let's just say I could still own this house, but I lived here by myself, right?
Well, we know about the apartment you had at Kent State with the third row from a minivan as a couch. So I think there is some history that we can look to.
Where's that Janine Garofalo picture that I cut out of
about cats and
a poster? But like, the thing is, like, if you were to ask Genevieve, you might be surprised to hear this. I actually have strong-ish opinions about things in our house.
I believe that.
But I have very little, almost negative levels of get up and go when it comes to like a bigger project. Like, we know that we need to put better flooring down in the kitchen.
Right.
More
you had the guy out. The guy.
Oh wait, no, that's
the hard sell.
That's the basement stuff. So up in the kitchen, we had this just like really terrible, again, like just like beyond renter quality, like linoleum that was shittily laid down and had burn marks in it. And it was just like, like really, really old. And we knew immediately when we bought the house, well, that's going to be a long-term project, put some flooring down. And now we still haven't done that. And that's going to be after a couple of other bigger projects like the basement floor and stuff that you had just referenced. But what Genevieve said was, well, why don't we at least temporarily, and I think this came up on the show, buy those stickum tiles that you can kind of put down yourself. And they're only going to be good for a couple of years, and they're definitely a temporary solution, but you can at least like transform the way your house looks temporarily, and I'm like, well, that looks good. And then of course,
and honestly, how long do any of us have? Like, just throw it down, enjoy it, don't borrow trouble for the future. You never know.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, oh, so you'll still have this 2 years after I'm gone. But so then Genevieve starts like kind of showing. I first of all had never even heard of this technology before. She starts showing me options online, and when I start seeing options, I'm like, yeah, I have opinions. And she's like, what about this one? I'm like, no, I don't like it. Too busy. This one, nope, too busy or not busy enough. I don't know. But then I eventually found one. I'm like, I like this one, and I showed her, and she's like, of course you'd pick out the most expensive. Now this is still not a super expensive project, generally speaking, but I do have opinions on how I want things to look. Having said that, I would definitely 100% still have the shitty linoleum up there right now if Genevieve hadn't been the team leader on this project. Or even replacing the stove or any of the stuff we've replaced around here. I just have so little, like, again, get up and go for the bigger projects. I just get overwhelmed, and I don't even know that it's like, you don't need any kind of special knowledge to do some of these things. It's just like, it just seems like, well, I know I got to do that, but I'll just procrastinate and put everything else ahead of that, and then it'll be 10 years later, and I'll say, yeah, well, of course, I still plan on replacing this floor. I just would never do it, and I don't think for me it's intimidation. I think it's just a deep sort of laziness.
Yeah, although you're describing a classic procrastination technique that we all do, which is, and I'm sure this comes up on Spotless, like, there's nothing that will get your house cleaner than having something that you're really supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Like, even in college, I remember, like, having a paper. In fact, I say in college, how about in my current life when I constantly have a stack of like 3 entire books I'm supposed to be reading for work, for Livewire, and like the shit that you could see me doing around this house that is unrelated to that is just wild.
Yeah.
Why is my brain doing this right now? Why am I on this project, which is not related to the thing that I need to be doing in the next 2 hours?
In fact, I mean, that's a perfect example of, like, I am definitely somebody who, as you know, I like to putter, I like to clean, and I like to keep a clean house. And so I think, like, let's take the shitty stove we used to have. The thing was terrible. made some rice the other night, Luke, and I'm just like, it came out so well, and it's like, yeah, I can literally cook again because I have a stove that is usable. But it had that, so this old cheap one we had one of those brushed stainless steel fronts on it. I think the one we have now does as well. And I hated it. It was very low quality, so whatever kind of fingerprint protection it ever had was gone from this thing, right? Mm-hmm. And I hated this thing, but I also hated looking at all the fingerprints all over it. And so I figured out like various solutions I could use to like clean the front of the stove. But it was hard, like to clean the front of the oven, I guess I should say. It would be like, it was a real pain in the ass to get it crisp, kind of gleaming, but I would do it. But what am I doing? Instead of spending the time going online and doing some research with what I should replace the stove with, I'm sitting here polishing it, and I would be polishing it in 2038. You know what I mean? Because like polishing something I can get my head around and I can do right now while I'm listening to a podcast, but like having to sit down and actually think about the dimensions of this thing, or like, again, switching to gas, which we did. We kind of went against the trend and had to get gas installed, and so Genevieve had to like kind of look up, we had to get a couple of different quotes on that. And it's like one thing leads to another, and it's just like so easy for me to say, no, I'm just going to zone out and polish this thing instead, because I just don't have the follow through on big projects.
We was hoping for some razzle dazzle.
Razzle dazzle.
That's right, man. Razzle dazzle.
On your mark.
On your mark.
Get set.
Get set.
Now ready.
Ready. Go.
Everybody razzle dazzle.
Hey, let's thank some dazzling donors. These folks are keeping us in vinegar money. And I hope anyway. I don't know how much vinegar costs per gallon, by the way. While we were talking, I was doing a little low-key research on my homebrew, and it all involves vinegar, and it's like a gallon of vinegar. And I thought, good, I'll get 10 gallons of vinegar. Then I was like, is there a tariff on vinegar? I'm trying to think the last time I bought a gallon of white vinegar. What's that retail for?
And can I drink that on a clear diet?
Great question. Just so the listeners know, we're recording our second episode today, because on the day that everybody's hearing this, you are going to be laid up with your colonoscopy.
That's right. Yeah.
But as I'm talking to you, you are still in your mode.
Yeah.
In fact, you're about to enter the commode.
Yes, right. I'll be drinking that. I'll be starting to drink that solution in just a couple of hours here.
I know that you said on the yesterday episode that like it would be more fun for you if you knew that you were all done for the week when you had your procedure. But I'm really glad that on tomorrow's episode, I'm going to get to hear how it all went. I'm glad I don't have to wait until Monday. So selfishly, I'm glad you're roped into doing a show on Friday. And you know who else is glad, Andrew? Linder Peacock.
Hey, Linder.
One of our dazzling donors today. Yeah, these folks like Linder are donating a dazzling amount of dough. It's the only way this can happen. This is 100% listener supported from listeners like Linder, who's in Portsmouth, Rhode Island. Hi, business boys. Thank you for TBTL, because gestures at everything. It's wild out here these days. A big change for me this year is my proximity to the tens. In January, I walked away from the Meta apps that had been slowly turning the heat up on us frogs. Boy, you're not wrong about that, Linder. This means less access to some friends and fam, which we have IRL connections, but I haven't found an equal to the Stens page. That is a thing. I mean, I don't know what the solution to that is, but it is a big nexus. Probably the number one online nexus for the tens of listeners is the Stens page, which is associated with old Facebook. I don't know what the solution to that is, really.
I don't either. I also don't know what's going on there these days. Like one time I think I tried to direct a listener there, but it's because of maybe, I don't know, bad actors or whatever. It is so buried in the internet now, like you can't find it. You can't just Google the Stens page anymore.
Right.
So I literally have no idea how bustling it is. I do know that there's a pretty solid community going on Slack still. I'm not trying to pressure anybody to sign up for more apps if they don't want to, but there is a lot of conversation, a lot of like kind of conversations broken out by all kinds of topic, whether it's pet talk or cooking or reading or anything.
There a link to that at tbtl.net?
There certainly is. Go to the contact page. You can find all the different ways to connect. Yep.
Linder says, I haven't found an equal to the Stens page, but if I was on those apps, I would share my favorite Fresca delivery system, the Paloma.
Oh, the Paloma.
Now, Linder, you're talking. And Andrew,
you seem like a Paloma
when I
guy.
show you that I was not pre-reading this message from Linder, but I'm very much enjoying a Fresca here.
I meant to grab a Fresca before this recording, too. I'm just drinking still water. It's like a sap.
Are you allowed to have a Fresca? Is the real question.
I am.
What's in there?
You're even allowed to drink cola, apparently, as the clear liquid, because I'm like, cola isn't clear.
So here's Linder's recipe for a Paloma. I have historically loved a Paloma.
You seem like a Paloma guy.
Got lots of kind of grapefruity deliciousness in it. It's got a little clear alcohol delivery going on. Okay,
and for
2
you,
ounces.
it also sort of seems like it means like you're in a place where a Paloma is appropriate, and that also speaks to you.
Probably wearing a white linen suit, and I'm feeling very vacation-y. A 2-ounce tequila. By the way, second show in a row where we're giving out a recipe.
That's not a coincidence. I saw this recipe. I'm like, we got to do 2 recipes in a row.
It goes great with Austrian goulash.
Exactly.
2 ounces of tequila. Linder prefers Blanco for this. 1.5 tablespoons of fresh squeezed lime. You know what I bought recently, Andrew, that it is wild that I had not owned in my life? Maybe I had in relationships, but it's like a proper like lemon squeezer, the little yellow thing with the handles, and you put the lemon or the lime in there. Like that's, balancing the flavors of things with acid is pretty much the name of the game. And I probably have not been doing that enough just because I haven't owned this implement. But I just keep noticing that every recipe I see online that looks yummy, they're just doing a healthy dose of that into things.
You ever get it that, like, we have one of those, and I don't, we just have the standard one that I just see all over the place. But sometimes, it's just like, if you don't line it up properly, like, you get a little bit of, if you leave a little air in the wrong place or something, you can squeeze that thing and it comes right back out at you or something. You ever have that?
Oh, I haven't used mine enough to have that malfunction, but I'm sure it's only a matter of time. Squeezed lime, 1 pinch of salt or salt to rim, 6 ounces of Fresca, Yarritos or Squirt.
Yeah, I like all of those, yes.
If margaritas are too heavy, or if you just like to pretend that Fresca counts towards your health and wellness goals, pretend, Linder, pretend. Try this. Also, a can of Fresca is 12 ounce, so you can make 2. Tell your 11 they can have one if they'll stick around while you speak in drops all afternoon. Jalapeno! Look at Linder even, let's see. Linder included a drop.
You're right. Drinking in the morning is fun.
There you go.
That's just a dry. I have no. Who do you think is laughing in the background there? That's clearly me from some point. This link doesn't have any indication
That's
of. That's
not me laughing in the background. Isn't that a pretty? You want me to play it again?
Here, I'll play.
You're right. Drinking in the morning is fun.
It doesn't sound like me laughing, but who would it be that is not me?
You're right. Drinking in the morning is fun.
It almost, for a second, I thought it was Sean, but I don't think it's Sean either. It might have been when we had a guest on, or maybe you were out. I'm going to play just the laugh here.
It's fun.
I don't think that's you.
Could be me.
It could be. It could be.
Could be.
But I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. Linder, one thing I do know is that we really appreciate you for all these years supporting the show and being a friend, and we appreciate you continuing that on. And what a recipe. So thank you, Linder. Maestro?
On your mark.
On your mark.
Get set.
Get set.
Now ready.
Ready. Go.
Everybody razzle dazzle.
Oh, look who it is. It's our friend Keith Stone in Libertyville, Illinois. Keith says, here's how you pronounce Keith's first name. It's like teeth, but with a K.
Oh, teak?
Teeth. Teeth, but with a K.
Oh, okay, yeah. Teeth.
Yeah.
Teeth with a K would be teak.
Teeth with a K would be Keith. Teeth, T-E-E-T-H.
I'm just being funny because
that's a joke.
It could be teak. It could be teak as well. If you're like, where does the K go? Was kind of the joke. But
oh, I see. I gotcha. I get it.
I'm pretty funny.
Keith is in Libertyville, Illinois, as we mentioned, and says TBTL has been a companion since the beginning. Now, Keith's the leather guy, right?
Oh, hell yeah.
He's the leather daddy, right?
Yeah. Stonecraft.
Yeah. Stonecraft. TBTL has been a companion since the beginning. I've met so many wonderful people on the Stens page. And it's truly amazing how connected this community has become. I'll use my time to shout out my leather work. I run Stonecraft leather goods in my spare time. See, Keith is one. See, Teak is one of these people, Andrew.
There you go. That's a funny joke.
Who you walked so that I could run with that joke. See, this is the thing I'm talking about, Keith. To do this leather work, I'm sure it's a time-consuming process. There's like so much from start to finish, and my guess would be it's very gratifying for Keith. That's the kind of thing that I need to figure out how to get into. I need to find a way to enjoy things that are process-oriented, but that are gratifying when you're all done with them. He says, Stonecraft Leather Goods, please check me out on Instagram. I've made a few items for tens. Big thanks to all my supporters. One of the things this hobby has taught me is that finding your people is so important to finding happiness and fulfillment in life. I now have 2 communities that lift me up, TBTL and Leathercraft. And I have to say this, just shout out to Keith, because I've been having a lot of weirdly leather-related conversations on the show between my watch band that was giving me trouble and also the wallet that may have led indirectly to me throwing my driver's license into a gas station garbage can in La Center, Washington. These are all things that are kind of leather-related, and Keith and I have been corresponding about this stuff. Keith says, I took a page from Melly from Staten Island, and I started my own Leather Crafter holiday card exchange. It was a huge hit last year. We connected 20-plus people and look to continue to grow and deepen the Leather Crafter community. I've got to believe that Uber Gen's in on that, what with being part of the maker community and crafting and this and that. The essence of TBTL is community, and its impacts are far and wide, even if it's narrowcasting. The effects are no doubt broad. To many more years to TBTL episodes, power out. That's from our buddy Keith in Libertyville. Keith, thank you so much. And I am going to get at you about, and also, the other leather conversations, I'm very into pouches now. I'm very into those little, and Keith actually makes really cool ones. He sent me some photos. So as soon as I lose the couple of them that I bought, which I'm sure will only be a matter of probably weeks, Keith, I'm going to be hitting you up. So thanks, man.
Hello and welcome to Top Story.
All right. Andrew, I've already built this up into being way too much of a thing. But when I was in New York earlier this week, it was a sort of a muggy morning. And I was out and about. I was, had done my little jog and this and that. And I really wanted some coffee, but I did not feel like having a hot coffee product. And so I went into that little place that I had been getting my coffee in New York, and I had the craziest thought, which was I'll get an iced coffee. And
whoa, that's the craziest thought.
For me, it's the craziest thought. Do you know, in my life up until that point, I had never purchased an iced coffee in my life.
I only knew that from looking at the show sheet today, but no, not until today did I know that.
Insane that I would have gone through, and that it would be as popular as it is, whether you're talking iced coffee, pour over, what have you.
And that you're like a Seattle guy, like where
Seattle
coffee is.
guy.
Yeah.
Like people talk about their iced coffee constantly. Like people love it. It's some people. I think that it's probably rivals, regular coffee in maybe some times of year as far as what is ordered more frequently. And yet it has never occurred to me ever to buy one, because here's what I think. I think that I thought all iced coffee was like a macchiato or something. Like my association with iced coffee was by way of Starbucks and by way of something that was a large kind of like morning milkshake drink. That's all I did not know. I went into this little French, boulangerie/coffee joint in the neighborhood of New York I was in. Andrew, when I tell you, I went in there with fear in my heart that I was going to order this correctly, that I even knew I practiced saying what I was going to say when I went in, because I've never ordered an iced coffee. I just was like, okay, I'm just going to say large iced coffee with room for cream. That's what I'm going to say. And it's like, I was like psyching myself up in line. And then I got up to the guy and I was like, large iced coffee, room for cream. And he was like, okay.
He just started laughing. He was
like, hold on, everybody. We got a noob.
Everybody rang the bell.
Yep, that's right. Hey, I'm giving out wings here. And of course, all he did was take this jug of coffee that was cold and pour it over ice and hand it to me. And then all I did was put a little bit of my half and half in there and a Splenda and stir it up. And it was so delicious. It was so refreshing. It did exactly what people have known for generations an iced coffee would do, which is gives you the caffeine hit of coffee. You don't have to deal with the scalding hot temperature if you're not in the mood for that. And again, the scales have fallen from my eyes. And I know you drink iced coffee as a regular part of your life. Like I understand that I'm not blowing anyone's mind with this. my mind is blown that it took me this long to figure out that this was a way that I could ingest coffee.
I'm not a huge iced coffee drinker, just to be clear. Like, sometimes during the summer, one thing that I do is if we, I guess this doesn't happen all that often anymore because we have a relatively small coffee pot, but, like, if we have
With
a pot
shattered carafe.
Yeah, I know. Still waiting for the new one to get here. But if we make a pot of coffee and there's, like, a couple of cups left in it, from just a couple of hours ago, I will put that into a little, like, a different carafe and put it in the fridge and let it cool down. And then if I'm, in the mood for iced coffee in the next couple of days, I might pour that over ice. It's not like, I know some places they actually make cold brewed coffee, and that's like a whole thing. Obviously, I'm not a fancy lad in that way, but I enjoy it. The weird thing for me, I think, is how we talk about, or you mentioned earlier on the show, I think that I drink my coffee black. Iced coffee has sort of different rules for me. I'll drink an iced coffee without any cream or sugar, but maybe because my early experiences with iced coffee also were maybe along the lines of like a Dunkin' Donuts thing in New England, or I don't know why, but I am way, way more likely to put a little bit of cream and a little bit of sugar into an iced coffee because it just hits differently. Black iced coffee, again, very drinkable. I do it plenty, but like it is, also Genevieve keeps a little bit of Irish cream in the house too, and that's the only time I'll use that. Is put like you only need the tiniest little bit of that because it's a pretty strong flavor, but it just sort of like mellows out the iced coffee a little bit. So that's my experience. But I'm not some huge iced coffee drinker, but it's not foreign to me.
Well, I'm excited for this summer because there are certainly days when I want coffee, but I don't want my internal temperature to shoot up. And also, again, for me, the thing with coffee that I sort of like, even though I do put a splash of half and half in it, is that I feel like it's something that's very satisfying, but it's, I've been through all these cycles that I've narrated on the show over the however many years it's been, including a while where I was just doing it black with a thing of Splenda. I've never gotten down to what you do. I've never gotten down to just black coffee by itself, which is also part of why I'm probably not very dialed into the like flavor notes of coffee, because I've always kind of masked it with something. But for a while it was coffee, no cream, and Splenda. And then Becca liberated me from that by saying, it's not as, in her opinion, she was like, it's kind of not as great for your digestion and teeth and stuff because the acid is not really being mellowed by anything.
The Splenda part of that is?
Just not putting a little bit of milk or cream into the coffee.
I see. The coffee. Okay, gotcha.
Because like it's just the pure acidity of the coffee. Now, I don't know if she's right or not, but I was looking for any excuse to reintegrate half and half. So, but even so, I feel like it felt like a delicious treat in a way that a cup of hot coffee didn't feel like a delicious. Like a cup of hot coffee feels like kind of sort of utilitarian to me. Like this is what we drink in the morning so that we wake up so we can get out there and get after the day. And with this thing, I took a picture of it, Andrew. I can send you a picture of the iced coffee if you want to see what it looks like. I don't know if you're familiar with what iced coffee looks like.
Sure.
As I felt like I was a Sex and the City character as I was cavorting about Manhattan with my iced coffee in my hand. It really felt like this. I am having the most fun treat of my life. This is refreshing. This is tasty. This also is really not that quote unquote bad for me. It is just basically coffee, a tiny amount of half and half, and a Splenda. Now, don't get at me with the Splenda. I'm sure the Splenda is rotting me from the inside. But as far as the things that I sort of tend to think about, which is like maybe overly calorically heavy or a lot of sugar in it or whatever, like it didn't seem to have those things to me. It just felt like a delicious treat as I was out in New York City being a total Samantha. And I'm really excited to see where this goes.
Maybe love is like an iced coffee. That's all I got on that.
That is so much more Sex and the City knowledge than I expected you to have.
I loved when the first season was relatively new. Like it was new-ish as a cultural phenomenon, but it was already on DVD. Our friends would come over, and I think on Sunday nights we would binge a couple of that was when I was pretty new in New Hampshire. I loved the first season of that because that was kind of the early days of that kind of television, kind of premiere serialized television like that. Are you going to do? I really would recommend. I don't have anything really fun to say here, but I would recommend maybe doing what I mentioned, which is keeping a little bit. Like you don't want to keep it for too long. That's the thing. You don't want to make a jug of it, and you can, you know what I mean. Probably a couple of days before it starts to kind of like I don't know, maybe some people wouldn't even do it that long, but like keep a little bit of it in your fridge. And Luke, you were talking earlier, we probably want to talk more about maintaining our yards in a little bit.
Yes.
But you were talking about that feeling of like the satisfaction of being done with a hard day of work. And you like, when you're done, like you click on the Mariners game on the radio and you sit down with a tall glass of iced coffee and you look out on the grounds and you drink your grounds.
Yes. And also I always have extra coffee because, as we've established on the show, I don't understand how much coffee I'm going to consume or how little coffee I'm going to consume in a day. So I just make a pot every day, and I've never gotten through a pot.
Oh,
now,
yeah.
my dad, as you'll be, by the way, Walt is here this week, so look forward to more Walt stories tomorrow. But my dad he'll just keep reheating the coffee from the coffee pot for probably up to 7 weeks.
Ooh, I don't
if
like
there's
that.
if there's still coffee. He is so low maintenance on that kind of stuff. Like sometimes, actually this week he showed up. I was still traveling back from the East Coast, and it was like I was worried to see what he had probably consumed out of the refrigerator that had gone long since gone bad. I made sure to dump the coffee when I left because I was like, if there's coffee in this coffee pot, he will just be like, oh, it was fine. I just reheated it in the microwave.
I am not a coffee snob at all, but I don't know, I really dislike and avoid at all costs reheating a cup of coffee. I feel like it changes the taste of it somehow.
I think it makes it taste like beef jerky.
I didn't expect those words.
There's two things. There were those Starbucks, I think they were called Vias. There was the powdered, it was Starbucks answer to instant coffee.
I remember seeing that, yeah.
And I was not as my regular, not as my go-to, but I can't remember why now, but there was some period of my life where I was using more of those than you might expect. I don't know if it was for my work coffee or I don't know. Somehow I was using those. And those, I think, if anybody has those at home, try this experiment. You put those into a boiling cup of water or whatever it is. That smells like beef jerky. It doesn't taste like it, but it kind of smells like it.
Really?
And now maybe because of that, if I reheat coffee, which is very rare for me. I'd probably skip it before I would reheat it. But the few times I have, I'm with you. It changes. Something about it seems to kind of fundamentally change.
I'm changing the subject here, speaking of change, because it sounded like, and I'm not trying to call you out, but it sounded like a couple of times you did something that we call Melaniing it.
I didn't even realize I was doing that.
Maybe
but
you
weren't.
That might be
it's very possible.
Maybe you weren't, but there's been something I've been meaning to ask you, and I don't think we covered this yet. In all of our John Mulaney talk, which the listeners are clamoring for more, I don't think I brought this up with you, but in one of the 2 episodes I watched, I thought it was really funny because he was when we say Mulaneying it, he has this whole stand-up bit about how you're talking and then you just try to cover up a burp while you're talking,
and it seems to coincide with being a guy of a certain age.
Is that part of the bit? I didn't know if I don't know if I remember that. I just remember him being like, you're just talking and then you just kind of power through it or whatever. And you and I now call it Mulaneying it whenever one of us does it.
Yeah.
And I thought it was funny on his talk show, he Mulaney'd it. Did you notice that?
No, did he call it out?
And he didn't call it out. I think maybe his guest might have called out that, but they didn't connect it to his bit, which I think of as his iconic bit, but maybe this is because I've been so exposed to it. But he was just talking and then kind of had to just power through a burp, and I was like, Mulaney just Mulaney'd it. It felt like it was a golden blurs day.
Let's see. Here's a little.
I've been talking through burps. I never used to do this. When I was a kid and I wanted to burp, I'd be like, silence! Blah! Now I'm trying to push them down and muscle through them. I'll be at dinner just doing the bread and the seltzer, filling up like a hot air balloon. And then I'm like, did you say that you were going to Italy? We have a travel agent. She has a travel agent. I'm going to the kitchen. Does anyone need anything? Does anyone need anything? Just take a pause, John.
You know the funny part? I feel like I saw him workshop this joke maybe on Comedians in Cars or somewhere else. Because I don't necessarily remember this as his stand-up bit. I remember it. I thought I remembered it being a thing he said more conversationally during some other thing that I saw where it was I feel like I can kind of picture the kitchen that he was in. I don't know if it was Comedians in Cars or sort of Architectural Digest being at his house or something, I think with his previous wife. But That's really funny because I feel like, and I won't be able to find it, and I will not try to find it now, but I feel like I might have caught the development of that joke somewhere, like him riffing on it somewhere, and then it becoming more formalized with the stand-up.
Were
you just doing it there?
No, I was just doing my usual confounding approach to broadcasting. But I do know that we've used that exact piece of tape that you play. Like that has definitely been intro tape before.
Sure.
But I don't know. I mean, I could definitely see it if you're in any kind of a situation, whether or not you're workshopping it or just kind of like trying to make conversation. I could see just using a bit.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Not me. Not me, not ever,
not
Andrew.
Not you, obviously.
Not here.
Not you or Jonah Lair, but other people might be
not self-plagiarizing myself with my 4 jokes. Never.
God,
Never me.
I'm the last guy making Jonah Lair jokes these days.
I love it. You're like the last guy, supposedly they had found like Japanese soldiers fighting on like a Pacific island. They didn't know the war was over.
Yeah.
They just go on to like some kind of Pacific island. They just find you muttering about Jonah Lair. The last guy fighting the Jonah Lair battle.
What is self-plagiarism?
There's a right way to rock and a wrong way to roll. You can just listen to your soul. Just remember that life is number one. You can be having so much fun. Just remember that life is much fun. You can be number one.
You've got Blurs Days. We've got a Blurs Day segment. If you'd like to wish somebody...
You've got blurs.
If you'd like to wish somebody a happy birthday, you can email me, andrew@tbtl.net, and you put Blurs Day in the subject line. Yeah, I was just... Did you hear it? I was Mulaneying a little bit there. Can
I say happy belated birthday to me? This is John Mulaney on Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not old yet, but I'm there's a phase before old called gross. And I like talk through burps, which I never did when I was a kid. You're like, did you say you're going to Italy because we haven't traveled? It's like, it's crazy. I
have never, ever felt more satisfied.
There you go.
I've been so wrong on so many things lately. I really needed that W.
By the way, I'm not going to say, I don't know why I'm being weird about this, but on Wednesday's show, on Tuesday's show this week, I was telling you that I was really struggling to remember the hotel that I stayed in. One of the 4 hotels I stayed in during my Denver road trip, and I did find it. I just scroll through years and years and years of text
how did
messages.
you find it?
I went, and this is not a Mulaney, this is a cough. Hold on.
Okay.
There we go. We're better.
Yeah, we're going to Italy.
Yeah, I was going to Italy. No, I was like, I'll bet you. I remember talking to Genevieve on the phone from this hotel and being pretty despondent about my situation.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'll bet you I texted her about it as well. And so I had to scroll back. And now my phone...
the number of texts that you and your partner have over the years must be extensive.
Yes.
Can you search your text by rough date?
You can search by keyword. So I tried hotel and didn't find anything. I don't think you can search by rough date, but I just kept scrolling and scrolling.
I tried bed bugs.
Yeah.
I tried decrepit. I tried.
Anyway, but I just
call the authorities.
It really did. My takeaway from that though was when I need a new phone, and I'm hoping to get one this summer, and I don't want to give up my history of text messages with Genevieve. Like, first of all, it's very useful.
Isn't that in the cloud or something?
I don't think so.
Is there
I could look into
Samsung
that.
Cloud or what kind of phone are you on again?
Yeah, it's a Samsung. It's a Galaxy.
The Samsung's there's a Galaxy Cloud, right?
Well, that's interesting.
I assume that they all operate on the same.
I was also thinking about getting a Pixel or a different brand this time too.
Oh, that might be
I
a
don't
problem.
know. And I want to look into a way to archive because, sorry, we'll get to the Blurs Days in a second. But you know me, even long before the smartphones, I was collecting these little old answering machine tapes back in the 90s, because I thought like someday this will be a record of my life, a casual record of my life, people checking in with me, whatever. And so I love that kind of thing. And yesterday or the day before, going through years and years and like seeing the rings of the tree of my relationship with Genevieve over the past 5 years was really interesting.
That's really sweet.
Seeing our cats at different phases and like various things.
Yeah.
And so like I kind of don't want to give that up. So maybe I'll just have this phone forever. Okay, we have a few Blur's Days today. As Luke mentioned, we are recording the show slightly early because of my medical thing, and so there is a chance that
called incurable stink tongue.
If you did send in your Blur's Day at the last minute on Thursday morning or something, we'll have to get to that to next week. But we do have a Blur's Day here from Mike, who says, it's my partner Chris's birthday. Now, I know Chris. Chris is a good friend of the show, and Chris runs the Tacoma Little Theater. And that's where... I met Chris, and so Mike says it's my partner Chris's birthday last year of his 40s. He's a crazy long-time listener. I don't think he's crazy, but he's like a long-time listener who's been listening for a crazy long time. I don't think it's...
Got it.
Yeah. Okay. I don't need to explain that any further. And subscriber. He's got a bunch of cool TBTL swag around our pad. I think he's listened to every episode. We have been to a bunch of TBTL events. You and Genevieve came down to Tacoma to watch the final episode of Game of Thrones at the Tacoma Little Theater. Chris runs the place and invited you down. Oh, I remember it well. Mike says that was effing cool. It most certainly was, man. I think a lot of people... I really cheat coded that final episode of Game of Thrones because a lot of people, myself included, were very disappointed by the ending of that entire saga, right? But I'll always have the memory of being like, well, at least if I don't like the ending of this TV show that I loved, I got to watch it in one of the coolest ways and places possible with a handful of people in this beautiful theater and a large screen. Like, it was so awesome. So anyway.
Right. That's actually a really good thing to remember is if you're going to watch the end of some prestige show, which is always fraught, try to watch it in the most fun environment you can so that it kind of... The show itself is doing less of the lifting.
Yes, exactly. Just, you know what? Chris will hook you up. Anyway, happy Blur's Day, Chris.
Happy Blur's Day, Chris.
Brett in the U District says, listener Brett here, wishing my wonderful, talented wife and TBTL progenitor,
That's my wife,
Amy, a happy Blur's Day. I hope the day is filled with bike rides, planting, and all the soup dumplings you could ever want.
Oh.
Rockwell, Mac, and I love you, no matter what the cats say. Happy Blur's Day, Amy. Heidi says, I want to wish my favorite 10 and the love of my life, Amy, a very happy Blur's Day. Thank you for everything you do to take care of our family. You are the glue. Love you more than you love me. It's possible. Happy Blur's Day, Amy. Sean and Hiromi say happiest of Blur's Days to our amazing 5, Yoshiaki. Yoshi turned 7 on Monday. Yoshi is growing up right in front of our
I feel like I remember when Yoshi was born, or very young, very young.
Well, Yoshi turned 7 on Monday and has been another epic year of your life. You finished first grade, read your first books in English and Japanese.
Whoa.
You learned math, art, and how to cheat at Foursquare. That's not the app.
I only
that's
know
the
like
game.
2 of those 3 things.
Yeah. We couldn't.
I know how to cheat at Foursquare.
Yes. You know how to cheat. Do you remember how to play Foursquare? I was trying to... Is that a
I don't think I
bouncing
ever knew how to
ball?
play Foursquare. I know what it was. It was painted on the school yard.
Yeah.
And it had the rubber bouncy ball.
Yeah, those
and you
cool
stood in
balls,
one of the
yeah.
squares. But that was about... I don't know any of the rules. I don't think I knew any of the rules then.
That's exactly where I am on that. But let's see here. It says, we couldn't be more proud. Thank you for... You might want to get that looked at, Luke. That slide whistle. It's just, I don't know. Get some of those blue diamonds.
Listen,
you're talking about.
I haven't had any complaints yet.
We couldn't be more proud. Thank you for being a great 5. And I promise, even though it breaks many laws, to get you a few shifts at the new restaurant. Oh, wow.
Whoa.
Is that their
They've
own?
got a restaurant?
Are you running a restaurant? And we're going to, yes, put Yoshi to work.
Absolutely. And put us on the guest list.
Yes,
we'll come
please. I want the Goodfellas treatment. You know,
Yes.
I want a single camera following me around.
Kitchen action.
Yes.
And we say hi to all of the kitchen staff, and then we go sit at our special
You
table.
put
I
the
assume it's a
table down
nightclub.
in front of us. Yeah, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I assume that the restaurant they're running is a kind of a 1960s, 70s nightclub.
Sir, this is a Denny's. Anyway, well,
Sir, this is a
congratulations.
Denzel's.
This is a Denzel's. Happy Blur's Day, Yoshi. Happy Blur's Day to everybody.
Oh, nice. Happy Blurs, folks. I hope you have a fun day. And as Andrew said, I'll just reiterate, because we're doing this a little on the early side, if you submitted one at the last minute and you didn't hear it, we will carry it over to next week. And then it's just like your Blurs Day or whoever's Blurs Day is being celebrated, we just added 7 days to it.
Yeah, so it's got interest.
Exactly. I mean, that's extends the birthday fun for everybody. So
unlike your HSA plan at work, this does roll over.
Oh God, I still don't understand how HSAs work.
No, HSAs roll over. That was a bad example. I should have said your
but there's one where it seems like involving me trying to buy prescription sunglasses on like December 31st. Trying to clear something off. Is it FSA?
I think that might be.
I don't know.
I
I've had some kind of card in years past where it's like use it or lose it. And I'm like, why did we put $500 on this?
Yeah, that's right.
I don't need that many bunion pads.
Yes, you do.
I've
seen those feet. I like and subscribe.
You've seen the receipts.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen. We're going to be back here tomorrow with more Imaginary Radio, so please do join us for that, plus a full update on how Andrew's whole procedure went. Again, Lord willing and the creeks don't rise. If he's still with us, we're going to hear about it on tomorrow's show.
The creeks are about to rise.
Seriously. All right, so we'll see you then. In the meantime, have a great Thursday. Please remember, no mountain too tall.
And good luck to all.
Power out.